guys, today we're going to learn how to solve linear systems by a method called elimination. Okay, if you recall that a solution of a system of linear equations is an ordered pair, so let's write that in our notes. Okay, and it's a solution of both equations in the system. The third method that we're learning, the first two were by graphing and the second was by substitution. Today we'll learn by elimination. Using this method, we add or subtract the equations to obtain a new equation with one variable. So the steps that we're going to do, we're actually going to always add the equations to eliminate one variable. 2, we're going to solve the resulting equation for the remaining variable, and then 3, we're going to substitute in either original equation to find the value of the other variable. And again, this will make sense when we start doing some examples. Okay, so if I look at the linear system that we have here, the easiest thing to do is really to always get it into standard form. AX plus BY is equal to C. Okay, and then we line them up. Okay, so we've got 2x plus 3y is equal to 11. Then we've got negative 2x plus 5y is equal to 13. Okay, so when they're lined up, think of them, now we're going to actually add them. So, whoops, this came across. So if I add these together, here, if I'm adding a 2x and a negative 2x, they're going to cancel out. But if I add a positive 3y and positive 5y, I'm going to get 8y. And then 11 plus 13 is going to be 24. And that's what we have here. So then we're going to divide both sides by 8, and we end up with y is equal to 3. Okay, it doesn't matter now. So now I've got my y value. I have to figure out my x. So I can then take that y and plug it into either equation. It doesn't matter which one. So I'll pick the first one. In this case, it's going to be 2x. So we've got 2x plus 3 times my y is 3, okay, is equal to 11. So I end up with 2x plus 9 is equal to 11, and I solve for x. 2x is going to be equal to 2. My x is going to be equal to 1. All right, so my solution here is 1, 3, and I can always check my answer by substituting in 1, 3 into each of the original equations and doing my check step. Okay, so again, I've got these two equations here. They're actually already lined up here, kind of nice for me. If you notice, I've got a negative and a positive. So I add the equations to eliminate one of the variables. In this case, they're going to cancel out. I've got a negative 6 coefficient and a positive 2, so I end up with negative 4y is equal to 8 plus 4 is 12. Okay, so then I'm going to I eliminated one of the variables. Now I can solve by dividing both sides by negative 4, and I end up with y is going to be equal to negative 3. So I solved the resulting equation for the remaining variable. We've got y is equal to negative 3. Okay, I then substitute the value of the variable into either equation. So I'm going to use the first one. I've got negative 5x, okay, minus 6 times my y is negative 3, and that's going to equal 8. So my negative 5x plus 18 is equal to 8. I subtract 18 from both sides. Negative 5x is going to be equal to negative 10. And then when I divide both sides by my negative 5, I end up with x is equal to 2. All right, so my solution is then going to be my x is 2, my y is negative 3. So there's my solution. Okay, and some of these steps kind of don't line up exactly, but if I look at the next one I've got 4x and negative 2x. If you notice, it's actually the y coefficients that can cancel each other out. So in that case, my y's, negative 3y plus positive 3y is 0. If I add 4 and negative 2, I end up with 2x, and if I add 5 and negative 7, I'm going to have that equal to negative 2. So when I divide both sides by 2, I get my x is going to be equal to negative 1. I then take my negative 1 and I plug it back into, again, either equation. All right, I'm going to pick the first one. So I've got 4 times my x is negative 1 minus 3y is equal to 5. So I've got negative 4 minus 3y is equal to 5. When I add 4 to both sides, I've got negative 3y is equal to 9. And then when I divide, I end up with my y is going to be equal to negative 3. Okay, so I have my x is going to be negative 1, and my y is negative 3. Okay, again, I can always do my check step. Okay, so I'm going to do a few more of these. Okay, all right, now I don't have them both in standard form, so I'm actually going to do some moving around. So the first one, 8x minus 4y is equal to negative 4, and this is important that you get them to line up. My 3x I'm going to bring to the other side, so I've got negative 3x plus 4y is equal to 14. Okay, so now I look at my I've got negative 4y and positive 4y, so it's my y's that will cancel out. And when I add these, I've got 5x is going to be equal to 10. Okay, when I solve, I divide both sides by 5, and I get my x is going to be equal to 2. Okay, I take that 2 and I plug it back into either equation. Again, I'm going to pick the first one. I've got 8 times 2 minus 4 times y is equal to negative 4, or 16 minus 4y is equal to negative 4. I've got negative 4y is going to be equal to negative 20 when I subtract 16 from both sides. And then when I divide by negative 4, I end up with my y is equal to 5. Okay, so my solution here would be my x is 2, my y is 5. Again, you can do your check step. Okay, moving on to the next one, I'm going to change, why don't you try the next one, kind of pause the video right here, and then you can start it again and then check your answer. But I'm going to maneuver and change things around, put the two equations in standard form. So to do that, I've got negative 3x plus 2y is equal to 6. Okay, when I add them together, it's my x's that are going to cancel out. So I'm left with 6y is going to be equal to, and negative 6 plus 6 is 0. And then when I divide by 6, I end up, divide by 6, I end up with y is equal to 0. I got my y first. I'm going to plug it back in, and I end up with 3x plus 4 times 0 is equal to negative 6, or 3x is equal to negative 6. My x is going to be equal to negative 2. So my solution for this one is going to be negative 2, 0. Okay? All right, so moving on. Now, it's not going to be convenient that we always have variables that have opposite coefficients. So if neither variable can be eliminated by adding or subtracting the equations, you can multiply one or both of the equations by a constant so that adding or subtracting the equations will eliminate one of the variables. Okay, so if you look at this first example, we have 6x and we have 2x, we have 5y, and we have 3y. So if I looked at both of these, I could actually multiply the second equation here. It'd be easy to multiply everything by a negative 3. Okay, so if I multiply everything by a negative 3, what's going to happen is I've got 6x plus 5y is equal to 19. And then if I multiply both sides by negative 3 on the second, I would get negative 6x minus 9y is equal to negative 15. Okay, now when I did that, notice I get my x's to cancel out. So 5y minus 9y is a negative 4y, and that's going to be equal to 19 minus 15 is 4. So then when I divide both sides by negative 4, I get y is equal to negative 1. All right, again, I can then take back into the original equation and plug my y in, either one. 6 times x plus 5 times negative 1 is going to be equal to 19. 6x minus 5 is equal to 19, or 6x is equal to 24, and my x is going to be 4 when I divide by 6. So my solution here is for negative 1. Okay, and we did all this here. We can check again our answer by doing the check step and solving for both equations and making sure that it works. Okay. So looking at this next example here, I've got 6x and a negative 2x. Well, what I could do here is multiply the bottom equation by 3, and that would give me 6x minus 2y is equal to 1, and then the bottom one would be negative 6x plus 9y is equal to negative 15. Okay. So when I do that now, okay, I can eliminate the 6x's, okay, so they would cancel out like that, so I end up with 7y is equal to negative 14. Okay, so we added them to eliminate one of the variables. Now I divide both sides by my 7, and I end up with y is going to be equal to negative 2. Okay, I then take the y equals negative 2 and I plug it back into the first equation. Okay, so it comes back here, and I've got 6x minus 2 times, instead of y, I've got negative 2, and that's going to equal 1. 6x plus 4 is equal to 1, or 6x is going to be equal to a negative 3. When I divide both sides by 6, okay, I end up with x is equal to negative 3/6, which is negative 1/2. So my solution is negative 1/2 and my y is negative 2. Okay, and again, you can do your check step. Okay, I'm going to do the next one here. I've got 4x plus 5y is equal to 35. So actually looking at this one, it's not, I can actually multiply both sides by a certain number. So I'm going to actually rewrite this as 4x plus 5y is equal to 35. I put it in standard form because it's easier to work with. All right, I bring my 3x to the other side. I've got negative 3x plus 2y is equal to negative 9. Okay, once I do that, I'm actually going to take the top equation and multiply it by 3, and the bottom equation I'm going to multiply it by 4. All right, so when I do that, I end up with 12x plus 15y is equal to 105, and then I've got a negative 12x plus 8y is going to be equal to a negative 36. So now I can cancel out my x's, and I'm left with 23y is equal to 69. So then when I solve for the remaining, divide by 23, my y is actually going to be equal to 3. Oops, that popped up. Okay, I'm then going to plug back in, okay, into my first equation. Again, you could do the first or the second. I've got 4x plus 5 times my y is 3 equals 35. 4x plus 15 equals 35. 4x is going to be equal to 20. Okay, my x is going to be equal to 5. All right, so my solution here is 5 and then 3. Okay, so we have some additional practice problems for you, okay, and I want you to, again, put them in standard form and then see if you can solve them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we've done enough examples for the video, but I'm going to stop right now. In the next video, I'm going to actually work on the word problems. So the remaining problems I want you to try, and I want you to compare them to the answer key that is on Student View. The next video will continue with the word problems.